to walk away from the club. To be pretty uninspired by what Ronald Koeman said to him last week. It was widespread reported in the Spanish press last Thursday and Friday that Koeman rang Messi and had a conversation, and Messi said he was still determined to leave the club after everything that's happened this season. And you can't really blame him with the cycle of the club probably since Neymar left in 2017, that Messi would want to make the most of the last maybe 2 or 3 years of his peak that he has left. Then add to that Ronald Koeman rang his best mate in the squad, Luis Suarez, yesterday and told Suarez to go find another club and that they'll rip up his contract if he wants to move. Again, Arturo Vidal, a player that Messi's been quite close to, has been told to go and look for another club. So it's very clear that Ronald Koeman is taking this in a different direction. I'm sure what Barcelona were hoping for, though, Joe, is if he was going to leave, that they could negotiate a fee, even if it wasn't his buyout of 700 million. If they could have got 200 or 300 million, that money could have probably been used badly by the Barcelona board, but at least used to try and pay some of their wages for next season and to try and get some transfers in. If Messi walks away for free after they've been paying him 54 million euro for the last couple of seasons, it's an absolute disaster for them.
I just can't. It's a very difficult one to take. Messi, not at Barcelona.
I know it's a very difficult one to take, but on the other side of that, when you're Ronald Koeman, setting aside the fact, and I know it's a very huge thing to set aside, what other team would be happy to build around a 33-year-old?
Yeah, I guess if
you're going in as a new manager.
If you're Koeman, though, you might say realistically, I'm going to be sacked before Messi's 35. So why don't I just try and inspire Messi for the next 2 years and to get him to do great things? I suspect Koeman was genuine when he sat down with Messi and said, I want to keep you. I think if you've enough legs around Messi, then for the next 2-3 years, he can still be absolutely sensational. I would think Koeman wanted to keep Messi. If Koeman was given the job for 10 years guaranteed, then I suspect he might have been more inclined to regenerate and suck it up for a year or two and let Messi go and get players in and try and build towards something. But I think if you're Koeman, this is short term. Xavi's going to take your job any moment, effectively. So I would say him losing Messi and Suarez, he's starting from rock bottom now.
Yeah, and like Koeman knows, no matter what happens, he's already been told by one of the presidential candidates in Font that if Font gets elected ahead of Bartomeu next year at their delayed elections when they take place in April of next year, he's gone. He's going to put Xavi in place even if Koeman wins the treble. And when you look at that Barcelona squad and you look at the lack of money that they have to actually reinvest, in all likelihood, they're looking to try and get people off the payroll currently. They're paying an obscene amount of money. I think it's nearly around 400 million in wages across the club currently. Yeah. Like if they don't get that figure down dramatically, they're not going to be able to buy anyone. And even though Messi will free up 50 odd million, which they'd be able to spend elsewhere, their track record of the current Barcelona board to reinvest the money has been atrocious. They've spent the Neymar money terribly. We saw in that semi-final, the 3 players who were bought with the Neymar money all sat on the bench during it. So I think unless Koeman is willing to actually take the risk that Bartomeu stays as president next year, he's not going to be around long enough for the rebuild. And so from that point of view, I can understand totally why Lionel Messi would be agitating for a move away, whether that's to go to PSG for a couple of seasons or Man City. I'd imagine they're the only 2 likely locations for him.
Okay.
Middle East.
Oh, that'd be terrible. Oof. So to recap, if you're just tuning in, there's a lot going on this evening. Harry Maguire has been found guilty of aggravated assault, resisting arrest and repeated attempts of bribery. He's been given a 21-month suspended sentence, so he does avoid jail, and he has promptly said that he's appealing that. We have Lionel Messi formally requesting to leave Barcelona this evening, and Victor Lindelof saved a woman's handbag. I can't take any more. Richie, what's next? What's next?
Munster's worst fears confirmed today with RG Snyman requiring surgery on his knee. Their new signing sustained an ACL tear just 7 minutes into his debut against Leinster on Saturday. Snyman's to meet with a specialist before surgery goes ahead. Dave Kilcoyne and Jean Klein are also facing spells on the sideline with respective ankle and neck problems. And sticking with matters rugby, Pro 14 organisers say the 2020-21 season will begin as a 12-team tournament. The Pro 12 returns. Earlier today, South African side Southern Kings say they'll be suspending activities for the remainder of the calendar year. The Pro 14 say they don't foresee any cross-border games involving South African sides happening before 2021. Talks are ongoing with South African rugby on the Kings and Cheetahs' future involvement. The turmoil at Dundalk continues this evening. Joe, interim boss John Gill, formerly an assistant there, has confirmed that he's left the SSE Airtricity Premier Division club. His departure comes 5 days after that of head coach Vinnie Perth. It's reported that Filippo Giovagnoli is poised to take over until the end of the season. Dundalk have called a press conference for tomorrow to potentially confirm that news. Gill tweeted in the past hour to say he had no choice, given recent events, but to leave the club. I'm extremely sad, he says, it's come to this. I wish the club, staff, players and fans every success in the future.
We'll have football journalist David Sneyd on the Football Show to talk about the situation at Dundalk. Peak Six took over at Dundalk in January 2018. Increasingly, there are question marks over their ownership. What's your read on the situation, Rich?
Not a good one. Their involvement, although seemingly kind of distant and benign to begin with, has creeped more and more towards the pitch over the course of the last 12 months, resulting in what we've seen with Vinnie Perth's departure on Thursday last. There had been rumours that all was not well going into this season, and that goes back as far as into the start of the year, into March. It's continued on. Nothing's happened in the interim to quell the disquiet that's gone on in the town. And I think it's only been exacerbated by the news coming in. Like David will tell you this later on, that Giovagnoli has reportedly told those around him that he's on a kamikaze mission, that essentially he just has to accept this job because what chance is he going to have anything similar in the foreseeable future, having previously been in charge of summer camps at AC Milan and a New York City affiliated camp in New York as well. Like, it's not good. There are better managers out there, more experienced managers out there. And at the club, like Alan Reynolds was in charge of Waterford and did quite a good job there before John Sheridan's arrival. He's still working there. I think, I don't know if John Gill's departure will affect that as well. But there are people that are in a better position to do a better job for Dundalk. And they seem to be spiralling. And for what reason and what the thought process is of Peak Six, I don't know. It would be interesting, and I'd imagine a lot of Dundalk fans would want to hear tomorrow if anybody from that board is willing to speak about the direction of the club, because the direction of the club as things stand is heading south.
Okay, well, like I said, David Sneyd on later on. I know he was talking to some of the players, and Giovagnoli held his first training session today, and it wasn't as bad as they feared. So there's that, if you're looking for
that's a ringing endorsement.
Crumb of comfort.
Yeah.
Michael Darren-Macaulay.
Yeah, he was on this morning on OTBAM, and he's backed GPA proposals for a split season. Under those proposals, the inter-county season would run from February to July, leaving a period from July to December to hold club activity only. The players group is hopeful of discussing the proposal when they meet Croke Park bosses later this month, and Macaulay told OTBAM he would like a lot of the focus put on club players.
I haven't seen the ins and outs of it, of the proposal, but it makes sense. Like, it makes sense. Like people always feel sorry for the intercounty players during this. I don't know. But I think if anyone who knows exactly what's going on, it's much worse for the club players. Like they get absolutely shafted, having to get themselves unbelievable shape for April, and then they're buzzing, and then they hopefully win a championship round or two, and then it's like, okay, let's just hit the training ground for another 4 or 5 months, and it could be in the work, be in different places at that stage. So yeah, look, it's tough. I think it seems to make sense. The split season stuff is as I said, I hope going to happen at some stage. But you don't know, with the wheels of the GA can move slowly sometimes. So hopefully the cogs can speed up.
It's something we'll chat to Paul Early about later on as well, as part of our conversation with him after 8 o'clock. One of the points he made, Will, and I presume it can be worked out if they do go with the split season, is that, you know, it's potentially a long time for the club player with no games. You know, you could be talking 6 months, and there might need to be some rounds of competition or fixtures where there's games without the county players. And then the other side of the coin is the county players then are effectively going to play all year round. They'll be in club action or county action. They actually won't get a break at all.
Yeah, I suppose the argument probably from an inter-county player currently, Joe, would be that they're probably playing year-round anyway. When you consider the pre-season competitions this year got underway in November, and most players would be out with their club until late October, even if they go out in the early rounds of the knockout stages, and then they're straight back around for the National Football or Hurling League, and then play a championship right through the summer. I think the split season makes absolutely perfect sense. I think when it comes to the club, and this is an easy sell if it means that they've got a longer period with their county players, will have to be an acceptance that the league competitions without county players have to be meaningful for the club player without the county player in and of itself. And that takes a bit of a shift in mindset, because in some counties it's always seen as, well, the action only really gets underway when we've got our full panel available to us. Those competitions need to be treated in a meaningful way from the club player. The trade-off is that you get extra weeks in a better part of the year to play your club championships. I think one thing players have enjoyed this time round, even with the unusualness of the pandemic, has been able to get out and play games, particularly at the start of this month when the weather was a little bit better, and conditions should be better when they're finishing up their campaigns in late September or early October. If that's the trade-off they have to make, I think it makes perfect sense. I think for inter-county players, they'll enjoy the inter-county season being slightly more condensed. I'm sure there'll be those who will bemoan All-Ireland finals in July if it goes through, but it didn't kill anybody when they went back to August. And I think having the season in a shorter period of time will actually add to the excitement. And I also think having a longer period without inter-county into the next year is a good way to build excitement for coming back the year after. So I think it's very hard to argue against the split season, to be honest.
I'm torn. I got to say I'm torn. So February to July we'd have inter-county, and then July to December we'd have club. Like, all through August, all through September, you're just like, even at the moment, would you not miss inter-county at the moment? I know we're saying, God, the club, it's great, right? It's brilliant. But like, we're not talking about GAA in the show. We're not talking about club. Nobody cares about the club championship outside of their own county. You are giving up such a presence. You know, you think about the presence that GAA has in our lives. It's the inter-county game that people love. We love the league when it comes back. There's great excitement there. It's who's going well, who's not going well. Maybe it drags on a touch. And then you have the summer of GAA, the controversies, the colour, going to games, all of that stuff. All of that run off by July, and you're saying that doesn't come back until the following February. Do you not give up this massive presence that it has? And presence also is a recruitment tool. You know, kids watching the inter-county teams playing want to play county themselves. Are we not? Do we need to think carefully here about what we are giving up? Absolutely, a solution has to be found for the club player, for sure, because it's just it's unsustainable, and that's been widely discussed for a long time now, and I'm fully on board with that. But split season and just July done until the following February. I mean, for me, Will, that's a big thing to give up, and I don't know the reality of that. Like, what, we're not talking about GAA then for 6-7 months of the year.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes for me, I don't actually mind the break away from it. When it comes to, say, the soccer season and when the Premier League finishes, we don't really mind the 2 to 3 months between the seasons.
But like that's a month and a half, really, to 2 months. Well, that's 2 months. So we're talking. Say July 20th, finals are done. You're not gonna see an inter-county player in his inter-county jersey again until February. I don't know.
If you're an NFL fan at the moment, Joe, you'll watch a season that takes place between September and the end of January, early February. You'll then switch off and just have the draft to keep you happy between then and the next autumn when the season comes back around. I think it builds up the excitement for the next season. If anything, I think we probably have too much Gaelic games at the moment. It drags out for too long. And condensing down the season, particularly in May and June, is actually going to be quite helpful, I think, because one of the things that really drags are the early rounds of the Provincial Football Championship, which are run off at a couple of games a weekend in early May and into mid-May. I actually think when these seasons are cut back and every week you've got meaningful fixtures coming week on week, and we're going to get a taste of that if inter-county happens later this year, where if you look at the schedule, when it is cut back, you're talking about meaningful games every single week. I actually think people will enjoy the February to July period an awful lot more, because at the moment I think a lot of people don't come alive until the end of the national leagues anyway. Like, realistically, how many people have a huge interest in what's happening outside of their own county, or just a general feeling of what's happening until it gets to the final stages of the league and into the championship? This way, maybe the leagues will become a little bit more important if the championships are refined a little bit too in the next 2-3 years. I actually don't think losing a few weeks is going to make a massive difference.
Rich?
It'll give the club game a bit of space to breathe. I mean, you talked about there the fact that it's going to be barren land essentially between the months of July and February. I don't think that's necessarily the case. We've seen that if the club game is given the pedestal that in often cases it does deserve in terms of media coverage, whether that's live games on TV or on the radio, etc., that it does attract an audience and it can attract interest.
Has it can attract. Like, have you been gripped by the club championship?
I think it has. Yeah, I think people have been gripped by the club championship.
What games?
Don't be asking me for specific games,
Well, no, so let's be honest. Like, what games have you been gripped by?
I'd be honest, Joe, you'd be surprised at how little sport I've actually watched, full stop. Okay. But regardless, it has found room on the schedule and it has found an audience.
I don't know if it has, actually. I don't think it has. I think we say it has. I don't think it has. I have not spoken to anyone, lots of sports fans in my life, who are on to me about the club championships.
But forced with nothing else to watch, Joe. between the months of July and February.
Let's have a chat about it. We'll do something on the show on it some night. Sorry, I've railroaded your news round there. Is there a last story?
I'm used to it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'll bet. Last story you want to bring us?
Derry City, I'll just bring you up to date, out of the Europa League. They've been beaten 3-2 after extra time by Ritteri in Lithuania. That winner coming just a minute after the restart in extra time for the Lithuanian side. And up to 20,000 fans could attend next month's European Super Cup. UEFA has given the go-ahead for Budapest Puskás Arena to operate at 30% capacity. Champions League winners Bayern Munich will face Europa League winners Sevilla on September 24th. And as I say, up to 20,000 of the 67,000 capacity Puskás Arena could have people inside.
Richie McCormick, as ever, thank you.
Thank you all.
Will O'Callaghan, happy birthday, Will.
Thanks, Joe.